Hey everyone, I'm here to bring you Happy Parenting Hack number 4 this week, and that is going to be pause before you punish. So this is going to look different for everybody. Some people are really good at kind of like reining in their emotions and their anger and thinking logically within like a couple seconds, a couple minutes after something really aggravates them. And for some people, it takes like an hour, sometimes more, for them really to be able to calm down and logically assess the situation. So as you're a parent, obviously your children are going to do things that like enrage you beyond belief sometimes, or do things that they're not supposed to, even though you've asked them like 20, 30 times not to do it. And at that point, since you're their parent and not their best friend, you really need to lay down the law, give them a consequence for what they're doing so they can learn from their actions and hopefully not repeat them. But the reason why I say pause before you punish is for 2 reasons. Number 1, if you take time to stop and think about the consequence that you're going to give your child instead of just spouting off the first consequence that comes to mind, you're going to be able to give them a logical consequence for whatever the issue is that they're having. So, for example, like let's say that your child is going off and playing at friends' houses without telling you first. When they get home and you're all upset because you didn't know where they were, you're worried about them, you couldn't find them. If you just spat off the first punishment that comes to mind, that might be like an extra chore or hour early to bed or something like that. Whereas if you take time to like pause and think about it before you give an answer, you might be able to come up with something a little bit more logical, like, hey, you're not allowed to play with friends now tomorrow. Like give them a consequence or a punishment that has to do with the behavior. So obviously there's a ton of different scenarios with this. If you take time to think about punishments that you want to give your kids for maybe repetitive misbehaviors that you're seeing, so that the next time it happens, they get a logical, more natural consequence punishment. That's actually really, really good if you can take time. Obviously, there will be new misbehaviors or different things that they're not supposed to be doing that come up, and you might not have something in place for that specific behavior, like, oh, I haven't thought about what I would give them. So if you take time to pause before you punish, you are usually able to come up with a very logical, very effective kind of consequence for that. And if you guys have any behaviors that maybe you've seen in your kids, you're not really sure how to give them like a logical consequence or a natural consequence for it, feel free to drop me a comment, and I'd love to try and come up with a good idea for you. I'm really good at coming up with consequences. And then the second reason why I say that you should pause before you punish is because usually when you give a punishment or a consequence, when you're in the emotion of the moment, you're in the anger of the moment, you tend to give them something a little bit more severe than what you would if you take a second to calm down. Like I said, this is gonna be different for everyone. Sometimes it will just be, I need to take a second, like count to 10 before you deliver the consequence. And for some people, it's gonna take like an hour or 2 to calm down before you can actually deliver something. But if you stop and you take time to calm yourself down before you hand out the punishment, you will be able to give something that is acceptable at the same level as maybe their behavior that has been an issue, instead of giving them something completely outlandish and then later you feel bad about it. You're like, crap, like maybe I shouldn't have given them. That might have been a little extreme and I was just really angry at the moment and that's why I gave it. And then maybe doubling back on that consequence later because you feel bad. It just kind of puts yourself in a weird situation, especially when you double back on consequences, because then your kids don't really think that your consequences hold any weight. They're like, oh, they might just change their mind. So pause before you punish. Make sure the 2 reasons why you're pausing, make sure that while you're pausing, however long that might be, you're thinking of something that's logical, a natural consequence for whatever behavior that you're having, and then making sure that you're calmed down emotionally so that you can deliver a consequence, deliver a punishment that is fitting for the behavior that you're having, so you don't have to worry about having overreacted and then later being like, oh, maybe I should change it. So that's my advice for you guys. Parenting hack number 4, pause before you punish. That way you can give effective consequences to your children and help them learn. I'll be with you guys again next week, hopefully a little bit earlier in the week. This weekend was kind of busy, to give you Happy Parenting Hack number 5. So tune in next week and I'll see you then.